So today on the show, we got plenty of reviews, and we do have an interview today. Our interview is with A1 Gavin Spector. He's the writer and creator of Iron Horse from Soldiers of Fortune comics. I really don't want to get too much into it right now because I want to save for the interview. But I have to say it was definitely an interesting comic. It was a black and white with a lot of gray tone going on. The cover, I have to say, covers are really good. I was very impressed with the covers. Len, you could actually talk a little bit about Iron Horse, seeing that you are the one who discovered Gavin and his project.
That's something I think we should wait till the
Oh, okay.
to the interview because I have a lot of stuff to say and I really don't want to.
Okay. All right, cool. So then we'll wait for later.
That way, it won't be a Sal review.
Perfect. That'd be awesome. I need you guys to start talking more in the interviews.
Oh,
We
sure.
will as
Awesome.
soon as we figure out how to interrupt you without interrupting you.
Text me. Shut up, damn it! I need to say something. We are here this week with Gavin Spector, who of Soldier of Fortune comics. He's the writer and creator of Iron Horse. Gavin, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Awesome, awesome. So, before we get into this, I want to tell the story about how we found you. So, Len, tell the story about how we found you.
All right. So I found Gavin wandering through the void of no return. You know, creatures hanging from ceilings, dynamite monkeys doing backflips, the whole works.
Jeez, I missed one hell of a con.
Yeah,
Right?
that
Yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah. And I walked by the booth once, and I looked at it. I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. And I kept on walking. My friends were pulling me, and then, I went by again, and I saw him again. I'm like, you know what? I want it. So I went over. I talked to him. Seemed like a really nice guy, and I'm like, hey, how about you hop on this podcast? We'll help you, get your name out there, let people see what you got.
Yeah, so that's the story. Is it all truth there, Gavin?
Every word of it is absolutely true.
Awesome, awesome.
You should have seen
So,
those dynamite monkeys.
so awesome. So let's talk about your project. But before we get into your project, let's learn a little bit about you. When did you start writing?
I've been writing all my life, actually, all the way back to grade school and, creative writing classes and everything. So it's always been in my life.
That's awesome. So, obviously, writing's always been in your life. But when has comic book writing been in your life? Have you always been like a fan of comics, and you decided one day, hey, I want to write?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting in that I've always loved comics, but on the other side, I've always loved building things. Like when I was a kid, my dad would get me like erector sets and Legos and things like that. And I finally put the two together in that I wanted to build the world. And I didn't know how to do that. So I realized that comics was the perfect way to build a world and share stories and that and, all that good writing stuff.
Absolutely. So, when did you first, I guess, dabble in comic book writing? Like, when you said to yourself, "All right, I want to build a world." So, if you want to build a world, you have to start somewhere. Where was your somewhere?
The somewhere for Iron Horse was about a decade ago, actually. And it hasn't been on that whole time. It was on and off since then. But over the years, the world, I just slowly built it and in every step and made sure that I was happy with it until I moved on to the actual story.
All right. So now Iron Horse is a decade-long working project, correct?
Yes,
So, was that your first project?
my first real project. I had lots of small projects as a kid, drawing crappy comic books with my friends and
Yeah, I hear
stickmen
you.
and all that stuff.
I think
But
we all did that.
yeah, but this is the first real project that finally made it all the way to completion.
That's awesome. So let's talk about your inspiration for Iron Horse. Where did you get that from? Where's the inspiration?
The very core of Iron Horse is when I set out to make the world, I wanted something where I could have gunplay and swordplay and have it make sense in the same world, and that is the very very core of Iron Horse, and everything else springs out from that.
All right, okay. So give me the elevator pitch for Iron Horse. What do you how would you pitch it to somebody who's never even heard of it?
Um, It's a story about a thief in a giant medieval Manhattan who he goes about his business stealing things, and he upsets his old rivals. And because the city is run just by guilds, upsetting your rivals can have very dire consequences. And as things spiral out of control, the city itself eventually becomes endangered by his actions.
Okay, and how many is it ongoing, or is it just going to be like a series, like a limited series?
The first arc is planned for 8 issues.
Okay, cool. So 8 issues. That's 28 pages, no ads. That had to be a rough one for you.
Um, it is. The first issue is actually 32 pages with no ads.
That's right. You're right. I do. I have issue number 2 in front of me. You caught me.
um, yeah, I write to the story's completion. I don't like cutting pages or doing anything like that. If anything, I'm going to make sure that it's extended to fill everything, to say everything that I need to say in that issue.
So when you're writing, is it like completely plotted and then you write, or do you write and see where the writing takes you? Like, how does that work for you? What's your process?
Yeah, the first thing I started with is what I want to say, and usually that means you think up the very very beginning and then the very very end, and then the middle evolves from that, and how you move around characters and things like that. Writing, surprisingly, is actually the very last thing you do. Like, there's so much layout of what scenes you want, and where things should be, and what you want the characters to do, that the actual dialogue and scripting is the very last part of it for me.
Okay, so now you have your plan, you're ready to go. So clearly you had to say to yourself, I have to finish this in, you want to do the 8 issue arc. That's a lot of planning. I mean, that's, technically 8 months. Is that how you're going to be coming out with it, or how does that planning work?
Um, it All of the issues are actually written right now, and if if I could find an artist that could do it in 8 months, I would totally get it done in 8 months. But a quality art takes time, and you don't want to rush them. So these things, they're going to take a little bit longer than that.
Right. So in the art, you have amazing covers, I have to say.
Oh,
Before
thank
I
you.
even get further than that, like the covers are very like I want to know what's going on. But when you open it, the art is just as good, and it's really interesting because you went with a gray tone. Uh, can you talk a little bit about your decision between color and gray tone?
Um, the differences are actually pretty minimal between them, because once you start adding gray tones, you're basically coloring, but with black and white. So it's just as hard. And I wanted that depth to the comic, and and color printing just happens to cost 4 times more. So how could I get my depth and keep costs down? Grayscale.
That's a good idea. I mean, obviously, definitely got to keep a few bucks for an indie creator.
Yeah. Hey,
I hear that.
when I get big, I'll redo them all in color.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. Hey, that's a way to resell your stuff. Like put it, turn into a graphic novel, colored. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I think the Tick and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did that over time, I think.
That is correct. That on both, correct on both. And I believe There was another. What was it? There was another book that did the same thing. I forgot. I believe. What was it? Can't think of it now, but it was also an indie title from back in the '90s, where it was black and white. And then right when it crossed over to 2000, they decided to start volumizing it as color. I forgot what it was.
Mm.
Can't think about it. But definitely interested in everything that brings Iron Horse. So let's talk a little bit about the characters in Iron Horse. Talk about the main character and then the other most important characters you have.
The main character is the thief, Gage, and he's part of the Thieves Guild. And he's somebody who he's not exactly a hero, but he's kind-hearted. He's somebody who enjoys what he does and just kind of wants to stay out of trouble. He wants to fly under the radar. And he has good intentions, but that sometimes leads him into very bad places, which is what happens in the first issue.
All right, and I noticed that you have a. I don't want to spoil it because I'm not into spoilers, but you do have the leader. I believe he is the leader of the Thieves Guild, correct?
Yes.
I don't want to say the name. I'll let you do it.
Duncan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about Duncan and your inspiration for him? Because I found him as a very interesting character.
Yeah, Duncan he's a very quiet and reserved type of leader. He supported his friends back in the day, and in the first issue, you see how things turn out, and that shapes him to be very reserved in his actions. And he's kind and compassionate, and he's a humanitarian, but humanitarians don't always make the best leaders.
That is very true. And as far as the antagonist goes, like, I mean, obviously more develops as the story goes from issue one to
Mhm.
issue two. But if you want to speak a little bit about the antagonist,
The antagonist Lucas he is also somebody who likes what he does, but in a different kind of way than what Gage does. They're opposites, and he likes what he does because he feels that it makes the world a better place. So he likes what he does, and that because that's what he has to do. And the problem with him is that he tends to get very emotional about these things. He runs very hot, and as you see, he gets kind of short-sighted when those kind of when his temper flares.
yeah, you can see his temper definitely gets the best of him from issue one to issue two.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, I mean, just a little. Obviously, it wasn't full blown, but you could see where it's gonna go, and definitely interested in that. Um, so, I mean, how many issues are out right now?
Just those two issues.
Just the first two. And
Hmm.
where can people find them?
You can find them online at sofcomics.com. Also at local shops around the North Jersey area, like Funny Books in Lake Hiawatha, Time Warp in Cedar Ridge, and Pyramid in Sparta, and Dewey's in Madison.
Cool. So you got a bunch of deals lined up for yourself.
Sorta. I drive there and I show up and pitch it and hope for the best.
That's cool. So as far as you said SOF Comics, let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, well, so the term "soldiers of fortune" that's actually a term that me and my friends used to use for like our little collective, because we actually started out as an art group for the BBS scene way back in the old modem days.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so like our art group was called Soldiers of Fortune, and from there it's just been like the brand that we use for everything. And now, so there was no choice as what I could call my comic company. I had to go with that.
Okay. So let's talk about it. Like, when did you decide? All right, I want to do a comic company rather than submitting or whatever else that you could do as far as getting yourself out there.
Well, like a lot of writers, a lot of artists, they want to work for somebody else. I'm gonna submit a bunch of scripts and hope I get picked up by Marvel or Image, or I want to do the Sandman book or X-Men or something like that, and that's fine, but it's not quite who I am. Like I want to tell this story, so this is what I want to do. Like there's no other option. Like I don't want to work for anybody else or anything like that. I want to work on Iron Horse and all the way through.
Okay, so you want it to be yours. You don't want anyone else telling you what to do.
Yeah, I don't want to lose creative control, and I don't want it to like sell out, in the bad way, and anything like that.
Right. So what went into putting Soldiers of Fortune? Was it, I mean, obviously it's your determination of being clearly a type A personality. Um, what made you say, okay, I'm really going to do this?
Um, when I realized that working for the man won't get you anywhere.
Okay, cool. That's fine with me.
Yeah,
So,
I had a typical 9 to 5 job, and that was fine. And I was like, you know, uh, this is okay, but I'm not expressing myself. I don't have any creative freedom here. I'm not doing something for me. So, why do anything if it's not for you?
all right, that's definitely a good way to look at it. That's what the interview is all about. I mean, being yourself and saying to yourself, listen, I'm gonna do it on my own, and that's all I gotta say about that. And that's definitely, I have to say, very like impressive. Like, you've definitely done a lot. I'm looking at the website right now. Um, what is the goal of Iron Horse? Is it to be an ongoing series, or is it to be just the eight issues?
It's to be a series of arcs. The first one's 8 issues. The next one's already planned out. It'll probably be around the same size, but in a series of arcs that could be contained in a trade paperback. So it's not completely just ongoing endlessly. There are definitely start and stop points, but I do plan to keep going with it.
All right, cool. And as far as the publishing of it, what's going to be your process? I mean, you have issues 1 and 2 out. Three's on. You working on 3? Is 3 coming out? What's the deal with that?
3 is about halfway done in the art process. A couple of pages are inked, so it's getting there.
Cool. So we could be expecting it by the end of the year, probably.
Yeah, it should be out by the end of the year. The pencils will be done by the end of this month, and then the inking, takes a couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, and then of course there's always some sort of weird delay that delays everything.
Yep, that's always one little thing. Oh, I can't let her because my computer doesn't work, or whatever it may be.
Attacks again.
Yep.
Yeah, my hard drive got formatted, or my house is on fire,
or
something.
I can't find my dog.
Yeah.
Or the house gets formatted.
When writing the dialogue, because you're in this world that is the past, but you keep the dialogue very you don't really have to go, like, the speech doesn't have to be from the past, if you know what I mean. Like, you're not, like, speaking in the older tongue. What went into the decision for that? Because, I mean, obviously, like, personally, like, I see that it's in this older world, but it seems like a very, like a smarter, older world. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what I did with the dialogue was pretty deliberate. Because the theme of the setting is like low fantasy, like I call it industrial fantasy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want like the highfalutin kings and royalty and all that stuff.
Right.
And I noticed that like high fantasy tends to go in that very proper speech a lot. And even something like Game of Thrones, which is great, it's fine.
Yes.
I love Game of Thrones.
It's fantastic.
Even though they don't say like thee and thou and all that stuff either, they still have that kind of proper Englishness about them, I guess you could say.
Right.
And I wanted something that was very the opposite of that. Very, it's all about the commoners speaking in their common tongue, just like normal people right now would.
Okay. So will we see any kind of speech that maybe or like coded speech for the thieves, or coded speech for like the assassins? Like, will that work in any way, shape, or form?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like they'll have calls to each other that only people in their own guild will recognize, and there will be like idioms that apply only to that setting. And I'm trying to slowly bring that in because I didn't want to frustrate the reader too quickly with stuff like that.
Right, into saying like, this guy's talking all this weird stuff. I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, like I wanted to show the reader like the events or the world, and then they could start talking in their idioms, and it makes sense.
Right. Now, would you be afraid that there would be any negative backlash towards the idioms, or like have you figured out exactly how to ease the audience in?
That's still very fly by the seat of the pants. For everything that they say, I think, will this work? I talk to other people and say, is this too much? Is this not enough? And changing a language is hard because, in theory, they should be speaking a completely different language. So, like, where do you draw the line between changing just enough things that show that they're in a world, but that it's still relatable?
Right. Okay, I understand that. So, as far as the character goes, like the personalities of the characters, have you been inspired by any other characters that you've seen along the way? Any friends like who made Gage? Like, who is Gage?
Gage, the number one inspiration would have to be the Thief series of games, and I think you could pretty much see that in the comic. I love those games to death, and I love the main character Garrett, and he was very like isolationist, and he wanted to stay away from everybody. So I wanted a thief who's like more social than that. Like Garrett doesn't have a guild at all, and Gage very much does. So he was an inspiration in like the opposite way, if that makes sense.
No, I hear what you're saying. Like in the way of, okay, I like that character, but I don't want mine to be like that. I want him to be on the other spectrum.
Yeah.
Understood completely. So, I mean, with all this being said, like, let's talk a bit more Soldiers of Fortune. Like, will there be more titles, or is it just Iron Horse is the only focus right now?
There actually will be more titles. The back of issue 2 has like the broadsheet page, which is supposed to be what's like hung up in like the city square of Iron Horse, and that actually gives clues to what some of the other series will be coming out, and they're actually in the works right now.
Cool, cool. Now, is it all the same artists that you're working with, or is it various artists?
The artist for issue 3 will be different. The the artist for issue 1 and 2, that was her name was Holly Rourke, and she was actually from Canada, Victoria, BC. And it's funny how that doesn't, that's like a 3 time zones away and a different country. But even that slight delay can make communication really hard. And it just, she moved on to other things, and I got a different artist, and that's okay.
All right, and you're located in New Jersey, correct?
Yeah.
So there you go, people. If you're in New Jersey and you're an artist and you're looking for a job, maybe
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
hit up
always
Gavin.
looking. Yeah, I'm always looking for promo work, or put them on another book. I'm always looking for something.
That's awesome. So this Soldiers of Fortune, how long has it been around for?
As a real entity, since about 2008. With the first issue wasn't published until 2010.
Okay, but you've been, beating the drum since.
Oh yeah, well, well before it actually existed as a company. I've been working on this.
That's awesome. So, I mean, was this your first con, the Asbury Park con?
Technically, it was actually only my second con. The first one was a really local con up here in Lake Hiawatha for Funny Books, and I was surprised in that how many people would just come up to you and be like, "Hey, this looks cool. I want to check it out," which amazed me. Is absolutely amazing to me. So once I got through that little con, I was like, I got to go to a big one. Like this is a great.
So how was the response when you were in Asbury Park?
It was great. Yeah, people would just come up and be like, "This looks awesome. I'll take a copy." Or people would just stop by and talk, and everybody was really friendly, and like I had a great time. I can't wait to do it again.
That's awesome. So as far as, did you obviously you were mingling with the crowds and you were making good sales. I mean, you don't have to tell me exact numbers or anything like that, but like, did you go over what you were expecting to get rid of, or was it just about what you were expecting to get rid of, or how'd that turn out?
We actually had a limited edition there that was the combination of issue 1 and 2, and I only had about 10 of those printed out because I figured, they'll probably sell a couple, but it's like a limited, expensive thing, so it probably won't move all that much. I ended up selling every single one of those, and that blew my mind. If I had more, they probably would have sold also.
That's great. I mean, like I said, like the art is really good. I'm very like impressed for like an indie book. The art is really good. Very much a sense of realism to the book, to the characters, their expressions on their face, like, and especially the cover. Like I said earlier, like the cover is amazing. Like it really is a very good cover. Like it makes me say to myself, wow, like what would this book look like if it was completely colored?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the covers are something that I really like. Like my big banner is just the cover of number 1. Like I didn't need a special piece of art made because I thought the covers are just so awesome that I could just use that. And the cover artist is the same as the interior artist, at Holly.
Right. And now will it also be a new cover artist as well on the next issue?
I really like her style. And even though she won't be back on 3, maybe I could wrangle her up for at least the cover to keep like the theme going. So I don't know. Well, you never know.
That's true. And as far as now that we're on the topic of the cover, who came up with the Iron Horse logo?
Oh, I have a friend of mine who works with me. He's in the credits, Ian Dooley, And what he does is that he takes my script and he makes it into like a storyboard to give to the Finnish artist. But not only that, is that he actually has a background in graphic design. So I told him, I was like, all right, I want a logo that kind of blends, industrialness with like a little bit of a Western feel. That's why the letters are curved. And
Yeah.
then as a joke, he was just like, well, I could put a guy pulling a lever underneath it. And I was like, that's awesome, do it. And
Right,
there you
yeah.
go.
Came out great. I mean, it's really the sense of, there's no question this is not a superhero comic. And by looking at the cover, you look at it and you say, like, I really think, like, the people who saw this say to themselves, you know what, that looks interesting. It's not a superhero. So, boom, you just knocked out, like, 80% of the market. And then you're like, now this guy's holding this huge, what is that, a hammer? And then you look at the cover and you're like, wait, it looks like a Western, but it's not. Like, you make the audience think so many different questions when they look at cover, especially for issue 2, because that's what I have in my hand right now. They There's so many questions that need to be answered, and they can only be answered by buying the book and reading it and learning the story.
That's fantastic. I mean, that is exactly what I was going for. I wanted all these different themes to show. I wanted, questions. I wanted intrigue. I wanted to just show off the city itself. And the fact that you tell me that it's working,
Yeah, absolutely.
that is pretty awesome.
Yeah, the second Len was like, "Hey, I found this guy at Asbury Park. I want you to look at the comic." He showed me the comic. I was like, wow, like these covers are awesome. Like, and then I started thinking, what is this about? What is this about? I got to see what it's about. And before I knew it, let me see. I got home from work. 40 minutes later, issues 1 and 2 were done.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
yeah, so I really wanted to learn about it. I mean, again, appreciate you coming on to the show.
Oh, this has been my pleasure.
Absolutely. I mean, is there anything else that Len you want to add to this interview?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
What I want to get into is it's funny that you ended off at the point where we talked about the cover, because as I'm holding issue 1, like, you look at it, and I've, like, when you stare at the cover, sometimes, like, in some comics you don't get it, but when you look at the city, it sort of feels as if you are standing behind, like, this masked person who's staring at the city, and it's real neat. You got to see it again. So there's, like, the train that's in the middle, and it really feels like it's like Manhattan, how close the buildings are and everything. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I actually wanted the covers to be like almost a page of the comic in themselves. They're actually what happens right before page 1. So he's standing up there overlooking the city, and then he goes into the window in page 1. Same thing with page 2 too, issue 2.
I remember I picked up on that as soon as you did. I always love when I do that because I'm a writer as well. I write a lot of comics, and that's what I try to do with my covers. Like, I like to say, okay, this is going to be the cover, so then the first page should have at least something to do with the cover, unless it's like something where you're just showing a bunch of characters to just try to catch somebody's eye.
Yeah, because I remember as a kid reading stuff like G.I. Joe, and I remember one cover, and it was it said unmasked on it, and it had all their masks, like Destro's mask and all that stuff there. And I was like, oh man, this is amazing! I can't believe they're going to do this. I picked up the issue and completely not in there. And comics do that so much that I wanted to make sure that I didn't do that in any way.
Right. You want to, this is what you get, and now you open it up, and okay, this is where we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
One more thing to touch up on, the facial reactions, if that would make any sense. When you really just take a chance and look at the art, and you see the guy, let me see, I'm gonna get to the page right now. I was just on it and I closed it because it's whatever. Actually, it's like page, that's 1, 2, 3. If you go to page, well, you can't look at it now, but I'm on page 3, or Sal, you can look at any part of the comic yourself. If you pay attention to the detail that goes into the face, like the facial art, I mean, it's amazing. The shading, the way it's like gray tone. Like,
yeah,
I completely like it. Like, I love it because it seems so realistic.
Yeah, like one of the faces that I continue to love every single time that I see it is in the middle of the flashback in issue 1, right after the fight is over. The bad guy says, "Who's in charge here?" and Duncan looks to Frex, and Frex kind of shies away, and that's when Duncan says, "I guess I am." Frex's face right there is amazing. I love that shot of him every time. Like I want to put that on like just photos, put it on a shirt, just wear it around and stuff like that. Like it's fantastic.
That's awesome. My favorite face that I saw in both issues was in the binding of issue 2. I guess it would be the 5th or 6th panel in the lower left corner. It was amazing to see him looking like he was. I believe it was Gage, right? Who looked like he was about to cry. Like he had such a sorrow in his face, and it was just really, really amazing. Like right after the whole gavel hits, and they say they're done there, and then he just kind of stares off and like looks like he's about to cry. Definitely interesting. Like
yeah,
it was.
Yeah, that's actually Lucas.
Oh, Lucas, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse my ignorance.
No, it's okay. But yeah, that's another shot that I don't have to have him say, "I am upset now," because a lot of comics do that too. They try to explain, what's happening in the panel, how people feel, and I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to keep the dialogue to a minimum and show more things with the expression. And in that part, he's really upset about not being able to get vengeance for his woman.
Yeah, you're definitely doing a good job of it. I definitely have to say, like, I love when you don't. Less is more. That's my opinion. With dialogue, if you don't have to say it, don't, because you can get away with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Show it, don't say it.
Exactly. And you know what? Because then that also leaves another question for the audience. Like, oh wow, this sucks. I really would wonder what he's thinking, and then keep wondering, buddy, because you're not going to find out.
Just like real life.
Exactly. And you know what? Some of the best scenes in movies are the ones that have no dialogue.
And have a slight ambiguity to them. It's like, I wonder what he was thinking. I could feel that in myself.
Exactly. But definitely, like I said, interested, and this whole comic it's really good. I mean, again, I'm interested in the story. I'm interested in seeing what's going to come in number 3. How many pages is number 3 going to be?
It's going to be 28.
28. Oh wow! So you're pushing the 28 the whole time.
Yeah. The last couple of issues in the arc are more closer to like 24, but they're all big books.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The thing about it is that if it works, it works. It doesn't drag. The story doesn't drag. So if it doesn't drag, I'll read 100 pages as long as it's not dragging. You know what I mean?
Sounds good.
Yeah, definitely interested. So, anything else you wanted to add into this?
I don't think so. Well, just in general, to all the creators out there, if you got an idea, keep going for it. You can do it. I believe in you.
Oh, that's a good motivational speech right there.
I like it.
It's the same speech I could have used.
All right. So, if people want to find you, talk to you, where could they find you?
Well, if you go to our website, sofcomics.com, from there, you can email us. We also have a link to our DeviantArt page, to the Facebook page, and to our Twitter right there.
That's awesome.
And forums.
Fantastic. Oh, you got a forum too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're an artist and you're looking to get on the project, maybe you should post in the forum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, with that all being said, I have to say thank you very much for being on the IndieView podcast.
Oh, this was, like I said, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and I hope we can have you on again.
Oh, definitely. I'll be back.
For listening to our past ones.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
That wraps up our interview with Gavin Spector from sofcomics.com. It was great to have him there. Definitely drop by the website. Check out Iron Horse. I mean, you heard it in the interview. It's great. We're all loving it. Definitely drop by the website and give it a look at.
Perfect.
Or a look-see.
Perfect.
Look-see. A looky-loo.
Yeah.
That is now our 6th episode of our podcast. Lovely. Went well. Everyone happy with it?
I was very impressed with everything Iron Horse brought and Gavin Spector. I have to say, I just wanted to add that part. I was really into it.
Yes, and me, Mr. Not Comic Book Guy, as you were talking about it, was sitting here scrolling through some of the images, and the drawing is very, even though it's black and white, shaded very nicely. I like it. Something I would get into.
Yeah, definitely interested.
I need to start getting into more comics, you know?
Yeah, well, you